Hey guys, thanks for joining me again on my YouTube channel. This is Cheriel Brown. I am the owner of Third Person Omniscient Productions, and I am the author of The Secret of Life Through Screenwriting, How to Use the Law of Attraction to Structure Your Screenplay, Create Characters, and Find Meaning in Your Script. Thank you again for joining me tonight. I want to talk about a movie that I saw recently. The movie is called CODA. And today I'm going to talk about the movie CODA, and I'm going to talk about inclusion in the movie industry in Hollywood overall. So the movie CODA is about a young girl. It's a coming of age story. She's a senior in high school, and this girl discovers in her senior year that she has a passion for singing. And she decides to join the choir because she kind of, it seems like she joins the choir on a whim because there's a guy who she's kind of interested in and she overhears him join the choir, the school choir. So she tells the person in her line, yeah, I'm going to sign up for choir. It really does seem like it's a last minute decision that she makes. But we do see her in a scene prior to that. We see her working on the fishing boat with her dad and her brother, and she's singing, and she has a pretty decent voice. And so you might be saying like, okay, so what's so special about that story? It's a coming of age story, and we've seen so many coming of age stories, and it's one of my favorite genres of movies. And the reason why this story is so special is because the young woman whose character's name is Ruby Rossi, is a hearing girl, and her whole family, her dad, her mom, and her brother are all deaf. And the reason why CODA is such a special movie is because, in my opinion, it's such a special movie because it's a part of life, and it's somebody's life, and it's somebody's story that we don't always get to see depicted on the screen. And it's something that we don't see every day. But it's a real life story that many people live and experience. And, we always talk about diversity and inclusion. And of course, I'm a proponent for diversity and inclusion. I'm a woman, and I'm a Black woman. I'm a woman of color. But it's not just your gender or the color of your skin or the culture that you come from in terms of ethnicity that makes for diversity. Diversity is the gamut of experiences, and that includes the deaf community. And one thing that I had to learn about the deaf community is the meaning of the title of the movie. First of all, the movie is called CODA. And, I kind of had a feeling that this was one of those movies that has a title that doesn't explain what the title means during the movie. And I was right. It really doesn't explain what the title means during the movie. So before I knew that CODA was a musical term. So before I started watching the movie, I looked up the term CODA to see what it meant. And it told me that CODA is a musical term or a musical expression that means the conclusion of a musical piece, is bringing all the pieces together from the musical composition. Okay, that seemed to make sense to me because the movie was about a girl who is discovering that she likes to sing. And, the reason obviously that she hasn't really known that she likes to sing before this is because she has grown up in a deaf family. And she's a young girl. She's a teenager. She's like 17 or 18 years old. And a lot of young people don't have a whole lot of confidence. So she enjoys singing. Music is something that she likes, but she doesn't know if she's any good. She doesn't have anybody around to really tell her if she can sing or not. So that makes her a little apprehensive about the whole singing thing. Let me just point out that CODA does not mean it doesn't have anything to do with music for this movie, but it was the perfect title because CODA has a musical meaning for it, but CODA also stands for Child of Deaf Adults. And so it's the perfect title for this film because it has a musical meaning, which the movie is about a girl who is discovering her voice and that she likes to sing. And it also has the meaning of CODA, Child of Deaf Adults, which is why the title is in all capital letters. Every time you'll see it in print, it's in all capital letters, CODA, Child of Deaf Adults. And this movie reminded me a whole lot. I spent like a year and a half learning how to speak Spanish. And I took Spanish in school, in high school, but I grew up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So, and just a disclaimer, I no longer practice that religion. But when I was trying to learn Spanish, I decided to go to meetings at the Kingdom Hall. That's where Jehovah's Witnesses worship. And I decided to go to meetings in Spanish. So I had friends from Guatemala, El Salvador, Mexico, Cuba. But mostly my friends were from Guatemala and El Salvador. And they had come to this country when they were like in fourth grade or third grade. They came when they were really young. And I witnessed them interpreting for their parents on many, many occasions, especially their moms. Like a lot of times their dads would speak English, but their moms might speak some English, but not be really confident with it. And a lot of times their moms would kind of understand English, but they wouldn't really be able to talk to someone else who was a primarily English speaker. And so I saw a lot of similarities between my friends from the Spanish community um, and this girl who is interpreting for her parents. Because in this movie, it really shows the weight that is placed on her and the responsibility that she has, even though she's the youngest member of this family. Now, this movie was, the screenplay was written by I don't know how to say her last name. It's either Heder or Heater. Sean Heder or Heater. And she directed the movie as well. But the movie is an adaptation of a French movie called La Famille Berel. Oh my God, like I don't even know if I'm saying this right. I didn't write down the title of the movie, but it's a adaptation of a French movie that has the same storyline, but in the adaptation, the girl is the youngest member of the family. In the French version of the movie, where the girl is the only hearing person in her family. In the French version of the movie, they worked on a farm, and she was the oldest child in the family. And they changed it in the adaptation, whereas the girl is the youngest member of the family. She's 17 or 18 years old because she's a senior in high school. And the actor that plays her brother, Daniel Durant, is actually 31 years old in real life. So I don't think his character is supposed to be that old. I think his character is supposed to be in his 20s. And the other great thing about this movie is that the parents are also played by deaf actors. All of the actors that are deaf characters in the movie are portrayed by deaf actors. So the father is played by Troy Kotzer. And he has been acting and directing for like over 20 years. He does a lot of stuff in theater. And he actually had a role in The Mandalorian where he is a character who signs, and he created that sign language for that world of The Mandalorian for the character that he played. And the mother, you guys will recognize her from Children of a Lesser God. Her name is Marlene Matlin, and she won an Oscar for her portrayal in Children of a Lesser God. And she is the only actress. She's the only deaf actress to ever win an Academy Award for Best Actress. And she was the first as well. So that needs to be changed. Sometimes you might ask yourself, like, wow, it's 2021 and she's the only deaf actress who's ever won for Best Actress for a movie role. And the reason for that is because, how can I put this? Hollywood has a lot of limiting beliefs. Hollywood has a lot of limiting beliefs in the way they look at things and the way they function. Hollywood is first and foremost a business. Don't ever forget that, because when you start to forget that Hollywood is a business, you start wondering why nothing they do makes sense. Nothing they do makes sense because it's based on business practices. And when you're looking at financing a film, the number one thing that producers and financiers are looking for is bankability. They want to have a surefire person in a role that's going to bring people to the movie theaters. Now, maybe once upon a time that used to work. Maybe once upon a time, people went to go see a movie because Tom Cruise was in it. Okay. Maybe once upon a time, actors really did have that type of star power. But a lot of times you'll look at movies that have these big name actors and they don't even make their money back based on how much money they spent and how much money it cost to produce the film. So one of the reasons why it is often challenging to get inclusion in a movie in terms of deaf actors, in terms of actors of color, in terms of transgender and gay and bisexual actors and lesbian actors. The reason why it's so hard to get movies funded with people who actually live those lives, for people who actually are these people who need to be included. The reason why it's so hard to get them included is because the financiers are looking for big names. They're looking for somebody who already has a name, and they're looking for somebody who they feel already has a built-in audience. And if you've never been given a chance to build an audience, if you've never been given a chance to star in a film, then how can you have a built-in audience to come with you? Okay, so they're looking for, number one, they're looking for big names in order to finance the film. That is a limiting belief that needs to change. If we could change that limiting belief that people aren't going to go see a movie unless they recognize the actors in the movie, if we can break down that limiting belief, then that is like a huge, huge step forward into getting more inclusion in the roles in Hollywood. Because, I mean, if you look at these actors who, for example, the Marvel universe. If you look at these actors or who are in the Marvel universe, you might mistakenly think that their names are a big draw to the audience. But if you look at the other films they do outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, their movies don't really make that much money. They don't necessarily make their money back. The biggest draw for a Marvel movie is the Marvel universe itself, not the actors playing the role. So instead of it being like back in the day, like a named actor will make the movie a big hit. In the world we live in, the movie, the property, the intellectual property is what's making the actor a big hit. So these actors that are well known all over the world, they're well known because they're playing characters in the Marvel universe. They're not necessarily going to draw in a big audience if they're in another title, if they're in a movie that's outside the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So let's get back to the movie CODA. So CODA is groundbreaking in the sense that 3 of the lead actors are deaf actors and they carry the film. They're not just there for like a little guest appearance. They're not there in a supporting role. It's a supporting role because the main focus is on the hearing girl, but we get to see their world. And the director, Sean Heder, she went through so much research to make sure that this was an authentic portrayal. It wasn't just, let's just get deaf actors in here to play these roles because the characters are deaf, but she really did extensive research. She had consultants on set who could tell her certain things about this world. She went and she visited places and she did her research. One of the things that she learned in her research is that ASL, American Sign Language, has regionalisms just like a dialect. So the movie takes place in Massachusetts and it's in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And she was able to pick up that ASL has regionalisms just like a dialect would have. Your dialect would be a regionalism if you lived in Boston. So she was able to incorporate that into the sign language of the actors. Another thing that really stood out to me when I read about the film was that the actor that played the main girl, Ruby Rossi, Amelia Jones, she's a British actress. And so the people on set who were making the movie with her, they asked her to speak, when she spoke, to speak in her American accent because it was easier for them to read her lips. When she spoke with her American accent versus speaking with her British accent. So in the movie, the girl is a crucial part of her family. She has a huge responsibility to interpret for her parents and for her brother. And I love the change that they made from the original movie. In the original movie, the family were farmers, and they changed them to being a fisherman family in the American adaptation. And that was a very interesting story point, because it plays out in the storyline that it could be pretty dangerous, if the girl doesn't show up for work, if she doesn't go onto the boat with her family, because she's the hearing person. So she has to be able to be their ears. She has to be able to hear if the Coast Guard is calling in on the boat and it's something that they are telling them to do. She has to be there to hear for her family. She has to be there to interpret for her family. Their livelihood is based on them being on this boat and being able to fish and be able to have her as their ears. And I love, like I was saying, I love how they made her brother in the adaptation. They made him older than she was, because as someone who's older than she is, he feels very like emasculated, that their parents always depend on her instead of listening to his ideas and listening to what he wants to do for the business, because he has ideas for the business where they can actually like make some money and make a profit, instead of losing money because they have to sell their fish at auction every day. And the people who are doing the auction are taking advantage of the fishermen. And it's a lot about her family as deaf individuals fitting into the community, and how are they going to fit into the community without her? So there's a lot of heavy responsibility on her shoulders. So the movie is about whether or not she is going to stay and help her family, or if she is going to go off and go to college and study music, because it's not actually something that she ever thought about before, until her teacher kind of realizes that she has potential and that she could possibly go to college, go to Berkeley in Boston, which is where he attended college. It's his alma mater. So he kind of, has an idea, I guess, for what they look for. I like that it was very realistic, that the girl can sing, but she's not like American Idol good. She's like Massachusetts good. It's kind of like on This Is Us, Mandy Moore's character was told when she went for an audition, "You're Pittsburgh good." And so I like that was kind of very realistic. And it was also realistic that when she did her audition for the school, there's spoilers in this video. Sorry, I always kind of forget to tell that there's spoilers in the video. But one of the things I like that kind of made her stand out from her audition was the fact that she signed when she was singing her song for the audition. That really, I think if it were me, looking at people all day long and listening to them sing, because I'm a producer. So, I've been on the end of auditions where you have to watch somebody audition for the same part over and over and over again. When producers are looking at you with their eyes glazed over, it's not because they're trying to be rude to you or anything like that, but they've seen the same audition over and over and over again for like the whole day. So when you see people like at auditions and they kind of seem rude, or they kind of seem like they don't care what you're doing, that's not the case. We're just kind of like tired, and we've seen the same, oftentimes bad interpretation of the same role over and over and over and over and over again. So anyway, I digress, as I kind of tend to do sometimes. But that's what really, I think, made her stand out to me when she did the audition, was the fact that she signed during the audition. And, if you have like the letter of recommendations, I'm sure her teacher mentioned also that one of the things that's special about her is that she is a hearing girl who grew up in a deaf family. So she doesn't have a lot of experience in music because of that reason. So, singing was not something that she really thought that was like an option for her. And even when she tells her parents are not like, especially her mom, is not really like excited about it. Her mom says to her, "Wow, like, so if I were blind, would you decide to become a painter?" And I love how her daughter says back to her, Ruby says to her, "You know what? It's not always about you." Because I feel like in Ruby's life, she does always feel like it's always about her parents. It's always about her brother. It's never about her. She can never like really sit down and take care of her needs because she's always like interpreting for them. There are two moments that I really love in this movie, which to me make it like, this is such a heartwarming film. And I love, as I believe as a screenwriter, when you're writing these small, intimate films, especially family films, a lot of my movies that I write focus on the relationship and the dynamics between family members. And when you have a movie and you have like these dynamics between the characters in the family, you want to give every character like that moment with the protagonist. You want them to have that moment. And for an actor, that's a moment for them to have like their scene, And I love how she has that moment with each of her family members because they always do everything together. So it's kind of hard for them to all to have like their individual moments with each other. And I love the scene with her mom when her mom is signing to her. And she said that when Ruby was born, she was afraid that Ruby would be hearing. She was praying that she would be deaf. And the reason why, you might be like, well, why were you praying for her to be deaf? Why would you want your daughter to be deaf? And it's because Ruby's mom didn't have a close relationship with her hearing mother. And she didn't want that type of relationship for her and her daughter. And it's such a heartwarming scene between her and her mom. But the real oh my god, the real tearjerker is between Emilia Jones and Troy Kotsur when Ruby has performed at the fall concert, and her family went to the concert and they couldn't really understand anything that was going on at the concert, but they were trying to be troopers and they were there to support Ruby. But in the scene after that, her father asked her to sing the song for him. And I'm like, oh my God, even just thinking about that scene is almost like bringing tears to my eyes. It was so beautiful, you guys. It was such a quiet moment and it was so beautiful because I kind of was like, well, she knows the song, why doesn't she sign it for him? But she doesn't sign the song for him. She sings the song for him and they're sitting next to each other on the back of his pickup truck. And she sings the song for him and he takes his hand, he feels her voice right here and right here so that he can feel the vibrations in her singing. And it's one of the most touching moments I've seen on film ever. And a part of his character description is, that he likes gangster rap because he likes the bass. He likes that he can feel the bass in the music. And literally, you guys, that's one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen in a movie. It's literally one of those things that kind of makes you just kind of brings a tear to your eye. And the movie, the family has their ups and downs, but that's life. That's life. That's so much of life. One day we can have a great, amazing day, and the next day could just be shit. That's just life. And I love how it's portrayed how her deaf family members had limiting beliefs surrounding what they could accomplish. And you guys know, my book is based on the law of attraction. And really the only thing that ever limits you in life, if you learn anything from me, even if it's not about screenwriting, so what? If it's not about screenwriting, so what? But what you need to learn from me is that the only thing that stops you in life is your limiting beliefs. I am also, in addition to being a filmmaker, a screenwriter, and an author, I'm also a certified hypnotherapist, right? And the way you can get what you want in life is to reprogram your subconscious thoughts. So in this movie, her family had limiting beliefs about what they could accomplish, where they fit in society. And they had a belief that people didn't like them because they were deaf. They had a belief that there were things they couldn't accomplish because they were deaf. But her brother didn't believe that about them. Her brother believed I know I'm deaf, but I'm not helpless. I can figure this out for myself. And her brother is one of my favorite characters in this movie because he was He didn't let his disability determine or dictate what he can accomplish and what he could be in life. You guys, like, no matter who you are, you can do whatever you want to do in life. You can do whatever you put your mind to, as long as you believe that you can. And then really, belief is the thing. Belief is, you know, if you believe you can do something, then that's it. You can do it. It's going to happen. But if you don't believe, if you don't have a knowing in your heart, then what you want will never come to fruition. So I love that. I love that. I love what her brother represented in the character, in the deaf character, that it doesn't matter what your perceived limitations are, as long as you believe in yourself, you can accomplish anything. There might have to be some type of adaptation that you do to accomplish your dreams. It might not look like the way other people expect it to look, but you can accomplish anything as long as you have a knowing in your heart that you can pull it off. But you have to have that knowing, because if you don't have that knowing, then that's going to be limiting to you and you're not going to be able to accomplish it. So that's all I have to say today. I hope you guys check out the movie. It's called CODA. It is the screenplay is an adaptation by Sean Heder, and it is directed by her as well. It broke records at Sundance this year. It sold to Apple TV Plus for $25 million, and that was a record. And it broke a lot of other records at Sundance this year too. It's worth your time. Take a look, check it out, and have a happy week or a happy day. Go watch a movie, but more importantly, probably read a book and do something creative yourself. All right, you guys, I love you guys. Have a happy day, have a happy week, and go be creative. I'll see you guys next time. If you like this video, please like it, share it out with your friends, and subscribe. See you next time.